Today's episode is brought to you by Viralcast, the first and only completely done-for-you podcast production service. Build new relationships, create a deeper connection with your database, and get exposure to new audiences. Here's how it works. You interview influencers in your market. You start building that new relationship. Then you take that valuable content and share it with your database. Your guest then shares the content with their list. Everybody wins. You get new relationships, you create a deeper connection with your list, and get exposure to new people that you would never have access to. And look, if you're currently mining your database with video, stop. Audio is the new reality. We are living in an influence economy. Exposure is the new social capital. Go to Viralcast with a K to learn more. And right now, for the first 25 subscribers, we're offering a 50% off the getting started price. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
Hey everybody, what's up? I hope you're having a fantastic day today, fantastic week, and start to the year. If you're new to the show, really quickly, here's what's up. We talk about entrepreneurship. However, we do it through the lens of a real estate agent, and that's all right if you don't sell real estate. No big deal. Don't stop listening, because the stuff we talk about applies to everything. Whether you are a painter, plumber, pie maker, you're a tech person, the stuff we talk about, building your list, getting better in sales, mindset, time blocking, time management, all that stuff is critically important. And we do it hopefully through in such a way that we always want to try to tell a personal human story along the way. So look, here's what's up. Today's guest is an author. She focuses on mindset. And all her stuff is really based in science. I believe in science. If you're a Nacho Libre fan, and some of the stuff is pretty heady, to be completely honest with you. It's all good stuff. She wrote a book. It is Master Mind Over Market. And here's what we talk about. We talk about the differences in gender, the differences in men and women when it comes to managing their businesses, and what holds them back, again, from a gender perspective, which is really fascinating. She plots, theorizes, surmises, conjectures, however you want to say that women get held back because of feelings of worthlessness or lack of self-worth, where men hold themselves back. Again, this is all at a subconscious level, just due to fear of failing, which I thought was fascinating. We also talk about why getting your mindset and goals and actions in alignment is critical in becoming and building the business and life you want. We also talk about a little bit the importance of modeling and envisioning the person you want to become for the universe to manifest itself to you. And if that sounds a little bit woo-woo, it kind of is, but it's not. It'll make sense once you listen to it. We talk about, again, the difference between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, and how the subconscious is the captain of your ship and kind of directs your life. And we talk about specific tactics and strategies, how we can all train our subconscious mind to seek out opportunities in the world to create the life we want. All right. So before we get there, really quickly, I'd love to see you guys join the conversation on Twitter. You can find me at Super Agents Live. The hashtag for the show is Unpack That Idea. If you haven't been to the website, I'd love for you to go to superagentslive.com. Subscribe to the show there, and if you happen to be on and you feel so inclined, would love a rating and review on iTunes. That really helps the show. And just we have been killing it. We've been crushing it the last 3 or 4 weeks in the business category. And look, if you want to level up, this whole episode is about leveling up. If you want to level up in your business, the quickest way to get listings, as if you sell real estate, is radio. Go to realestateradioexperts.com, fill out the getting started sheet, and let's see if that's right for you. All right, hey, let's get to it. Today on the show, I'm excited to have today's guest. Now, today's guest, she is an author, hopefully a soon-to-be best-selling author. She wrote a book, Mind Over Market, The Real Estate Warrior's Roadmap to Mindset, Marketing, and Media. I'm thrilled to welcome Tamara Lee Dorris. Hey, Tamara, thanks for taking the time out.
Hey, Toby, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Now, listen, I know you have a unique background. I mean, you are, unlike a lot of the quote-unquote coaches out there, you're a real operator. And you decided to write it down in this book. Tell us a little bit about first yourself, and then we'll get into the content.
Okay, sure. Well, I started in the real estate industry about 26 years ago, kicking and screaming because my mother pulled me into it. She was an agent. She was a top producer. And I worked at the California Association of Realtors after I had been selling for just a few years. And I said, no, this isn't for me. This isn't the business I want to be in. I see agents stressed out. I really want to be a psychotherapist and a writer. And so I was pursuing my education. And then, as it were, what happened is I saw all of these agents doing so well. I thought, well, maybe I'll get my license again. So after I finished graduate school, I started teaching and at the college level, and I also got my license again. And I thought, you know what? I can incorporate all of the psychotherapy stuff that I'm learning and make mindset a real big focus, because I found, Toby, as I'm sure you know, with new agents, their big challenge was their fear. And I recognized an opportunity to help really focus on the mindset. I mean, a lot of people talk about mindset and how important it is, but no one is really out there teaching it. And I teach it from a neuroscience and a quantum physics perspective. So I just kind of have run with it. And, I'm not for everybody, but the people that I work with, have really great results because they understand that we have to reprogram our mind. We have to think differently to have different things.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with you. I think that the notion of mind, look, if you talk to most agents, right, what's the biggest problem you have in your business? I don't have enough leads. Well, that's not really really, in a lot of ways, that's a mindset issue in itself, right? You have a scarcity, mindset rather than abundance mindset. You've done this for almost 3 decades, right? What common thematically when it comes to a somebody that's struggling, with mindset, where are they failing? What's a one thing that's kind of holding most people up?
I would say, well, and this is an interesting question because I would say this is different for men and women. And I don't mean to be sexist, but when it comes to the real estate industry, I think I would be pretty safe in saying that usually the agents comprise a little bit more than the males. But yet it seems that there's a lot more male brokers, managers, and top producers. I think that a lot of that has to do biochemically with the fact that men have testosterone. And when it comes to women, I think there's a lot of self-worthiness issues that women just haven't identified with. And so there's some really, really deep things going on. Just as far as a mental, most people in our industry are growing up thinking that there's certain things that women can do and that they can't do. And so I find my challenges with women have to do more with fear and self-worth. And with men, it has to do more with procrastination. And so those two really, really boil down to just a wrong way of thinking, an inaccurate way of thinking, that we just have to shift their neural connections to think differently.
That's a mouthful that you just said there. I mean, and I think most people will, when it comes to fear, when you talk about shifting neuro connections, I think that for the most, the civilian out there, they're not going to know what that means. They're not going to know how to take it. Now, I can tell you, let me take a line out of your book, in terms of asking that question. And it's a small paragraph. Let me read it to you. It's in your introduction. Quote, the reason most people fail to reach their ideal outcomes is because they're not keeping their thoughts, your conscious brain, their feelings, subconscious brain, and their actions, a combined result, in alignment with their dreams and goals. How would you react? I mean, this is in your book. And I would agree with you. You have to have the outcome, your goals, in alignment with your business, whether, however small or large that business is. And, talk to us about alignment.
Okay, let me give you a really easy example for everyone who's listening that they can really get their head around for starters. And that would be if you tell me I want to lose 20 pounds, but then you go through McDonald's, order a cheeseburger, and then go home and drink a bottle of wine and skip the gym, you're not acting. Your actions and your thoughts are not in alignment with your intention. If your intention is to lose weight, well, you've got to go to the gym or you've got to go jogging or whatever, and you've got to, eat less than you burn. So being in alignment, Toby, just really has to do with keeping our thoughts and our actions in alignment with what we want to do. So if you want to be a top producer, by God, you've got to do the things that a top producer does. And you can't do the things a top producer does unless you're thinking the way a top producer thinks. So that's what alignment is all about without getting too much into the science end of it.
Okay. How would you respond to, and that's a great explanation, by the way, Tamara, but how would you, in terms of finding alignment, Tony Robbins, right, in his first book, Awaken the Giant Within, he said that he knew what he wanted to achieve, right? And the way that he did it, he's like, hey, instead of saying I have a goal of having a limo and a driver, he just went out and did it. And he talks about, and I don't know if he does anymore, but then he talked about, faking it until you make it. In terms of leveling up, I mean, what do you think about that in terms of trying to put yourself in the shoes of where you want to be?
Absolutely. It's really interesting because the more that I've researched over the years, I've come to realize that the things that Tony was teaching way back when, I don't honestly think that, and I love him, but I don't honestly think that he knew the science behind what he was teaching. Mm-hmm. He just knew how to apply it. Now, I read on your bio when I was kind of checking you out earlier this morning that you talked about Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill. And I think that it's interesting to state that Napoleon Hill talked about a lot of things that usually would be deemed woo-woo. But because he kind of prefaced it in a certain way, it's become, as you know, one of the very biggest selling business books of all time. And he was very woo-woo. I mean, he talked about his invisible council of people. He talked about transmuting sexual energy. And, people kind of gloss over that stuff. But when it comes down to it, I think that had an influence on Tony Robbins. So to get back to your question, I believe acting as if has both a neurological and a quantum physics effect on us. And it really boils down to, as I say in the book repeatedly, you have to become the person that you want. And you have to become that person on a physical, on an emotional, on a mental level. And then you kind of step into being that person. And the next thing you know, it's like, wow, all this crazy stuff's happening. And now I am that person.
Okay. Yeah, but I love Napoleon Hill. I mean, I think I'll tell you a quick story, and I would love to get your take on it. Back in college, I sat down and I really kind of followed what Napoleon Hill said. I wrote down what I wanted, I visualized it, and I wrote it down. And it was funny. Recently, maybe a year ago, I'm in my office, and my wife, I have a bookcase with my journals and everything, and she pulls out this journal, and I haven't seen this thing in 20 years. And she goes, "What's this?" And I said, I don't know. I open it up, and it's I wrote this down in like the early 90s, and it was all the stuff that I wanted to achieve. And I haven't looked at this books, again, for 20 years. I looked at that list, and 90% of those things I had accomplished. I just, for me, I had to point, it just hit me in my gut, like, wow, I envisioned that and I made it real and the world manifested it. What are your thoughts on that, Tamara?
First of all, congratulations. That's awesome. Second of all, I don't know that the world manifested it. There's two takes on it. And I, as you know, if you read the book, I believe in both. The first take is that we are programmed by our subconscious. Our subconscious mind comprises about 95% of our thinking. Our conscious brain is where we think and reason and all of that stuff, set goals. But our subconscious mind is what's really the captain that is driving the ship. And so what happened when you wrote those things down is you gave a little direction, a little instruction to your subconscious mind, and you kind of implanted, which is no different than, hypnosis or the way that vision boards work. You kind of gave your subconscious mind this program that said, this is what I'm going to have. So your subconscious mind has been working throughout the years to manifest those things. And what happens with your neural networks is now your brain is looking for things and opportunities, people and situations that will make those goals come to fruition. So in that sense, Toby, it was really your subconscious mind was finding those goals for you. Now, the other school of thought, which I discuss in the book, is quantum physics. And quantum physicists tell us that every possibility already exists. It's just a matter of us getting in tune with it, which is where the alignment comes in. So in your mind, you were thinking, these are the things I'm going to have. These are the things I want. And again, whatever energetic vibrations go out there, you pulled it in that way. Now, I want to mention one interesting thing, because when I say the word vibration, I don't want to lose anyone. I want to point out that Napoleon Hill, in his original draft, used the word vibration 72 times. The publishers thought it was a little too woo-woo, so they cut it way down. So that's kind of an interesting concept there to understand that way back then, he understood quantum physics.
Interesting. So the subconscious part of your brain is the captain driving the ship. If we go back to what we talked about, the difference between men and women, and you talk fast like I do, so I can't take notes. I can't transcribe as fast as you're talking. But so for women, the issue is that you typically see is a self-worth issue. And with men, it's fear. So if I'm a woman, I'm acting, I have 95% of my subconscious brain. The captain is telling me that I'm not worth it. Or men, right? That I can't do it. I'm fearful of it. How do I give the captain new directions?
Excellent question. And that's really the whole premise of everything I do with my coaching and my books. It's really a matter of, when you said what Tony Robbins mentioned about acting as if, in our conscious waking mind, we act as if, sure. But the way that we really make the long-term neural connections is we do what I call a meta-creation practice. And I use the term meta-creation because when I say meditation, a lot of people go, oh God, their eyes gloss over. Oh no, I don't want to do that. But so I have come up with a way which I've developed. It's taken, a couple of years, but I think it's a really, really effective way. And it's proving to be effective. It's a Western answer to meditation. So you get all of the benefits of meditation, but it's a lot faster and it's a lot more fun because you're actually doing like what you said you were doing when you were visualizing and writing, but you're doing this exercise with closed eyes with certain brain entrainment music, and you're envisioning something that you want and you're feeling it. And so what we now know, especially based on the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I was just fortunate enough to get to spend a weekend seeing. But we now know that when you feel an emotion and you see something in your mind, that creates a new experience, and it has a biochemical as well as a neurological effect, and that begins to fuse new neural networks together. Now, when you fuse these neural networks together long enough and they become cemented, then that's what goes on autopilot. Now that's your subconscious mind, and that's what it's going to start directing you toward.
Okay, and I have to tell you, and I was going to tell you this anyway. When you sent me a copy, or your publisher, somebody sent me a copy of your book, and I went through it. I didn't read all of it. My initial gut reaction, Tamara, is this is great stuff. It is meaty. Like I feel like most people are. Let me see. How do I see? I think you know what I'm getting at, right? I think you almost have a textbook here. Do you think this is too sophisticated for the typical person out there?
See, this is what happens when you hang out with scientists all the time. You start to sound like one, right? That's really interesting that you asked me that. I've had people tell me it's the most brilliant book they've ever read. including, some people, some coaches that we know. And I've had agents tell me it's too challenging to read. So what I have done to that effect is I'm putting it in Audible. I'm doing an audio format. I've made webinars. I have a free book club that with the PowerPoint where I really simplify it down because I know it can get heady. But the reason I chose to go that route, because I have other books that are simpler. But the reason I went that route, Toby, was because I really am trying to make a mark in the real estate industry to help improve agents' lives. I mean, it's not about me. I've been a professor 13 years. I have a really deep down commitment to help our industry and the people in it. And I know that if people don't begin to do this kind of a meditation practice and start to think from their heart center a little more than their bank account, that we're going to continue to be, the used car salesman as far as the consumer sees us. And so consumers can pick up on our fear and our anxiety. And so, I wanted to provide the science behind it so that people who had a skeptical response to it could understand that this is real science. Now, when I teach it in a very simplified manner. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. No. And I think right. And I think that's kind of what I was getting at. It's almost like people are going to need help from in order to. They can't necessarily do that. I almost feel like you should be like the coach to coaches, right? Somebody like and I don't want to say names, but some of those big name coaches out there, I feel like you could be their coach. And just for me, like, I wonder how that translates into the typical guy walking down the street, who today, makes 75 grand a year or 150 grand a year. And, so let's talk about the captain. Let's talk about how to give this guy, some real, steps that people can take to reprogram this captain. Now, here, let me give you a scenario or situation. So, there's a person out there, man or woman, whatever, and this is real. I think that most people out there, they want to make, it's so funny. I have a little coaching program and I sit down with these people and I go, how much do you want to make? And this one girl recently answered, she's like, I want to make something crazy. She said like 50 grand. I'm like, you can't even think of 100. Like for me, like I go, I want to net $1 million. I have friends that, these guys net $1 million a month and I can't think that big.
Right.
How for that person who needs to level up in terms of the way they're thinking from 50 to 100, or for me, from $1 million to $1 million a month, how do we, because I think that's it, right? I mean, if we can train that captain, we're on the right path.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And that's interesting that you bring that up, and, money is a whole conversation there. But ultimately, we have to remember, and this is the key that I hope everyone gets, is it's not just visualizing. You have to feel it. That's when the magic happens. Our subconscious brains, every time we have a thought, which if we use our imagination and visualize, that creates an electrical impulse. So every time we have a thought, and then that thought is coupled with the emotion, this is where acting as if comes in. Your heart puts out a magnetic resonance. So the electromagnetic field that you create with thought coupled with emotion, those are key. We also live in a universe that's electromagnetic. And so that's where the quantum physics kind of crazy happens, but let's not worry about if it's true or not. Let's just see if it works for us. And so that's what I always try to tell people when they're like, this seems weird. But what you have to do is you have to go in your mind every day and you feel what it would feel like to have that next amount. Now, for the person who says, oh, I can't think that big, you have to ask them. You ask those clients, you say, okay, what would you do differently if you had that much money a year? What would be different in your life? And then you give, let them start to get an idea, list several things that it would mean. Maybe it would mean driving a Jaguar. So good, go to a Jaguar store and actually sit in a Jaguar, and smell it and feel it and whatever it takes, just really, really guess what it would be like to have that. And that's our problem, I think, Toby. I think our whole society, not just real estate, I think we don't think big enough. You called it. And we don't think big enough because we don't know that, because the 95% of our captain, our subconscious, has always told us, this is what you get. This is as big as it goes. This is your blueprint. This is your thermostat. That's all you can have. And so we have to stretch outside of our own skin.
Okay, no, I think that's great. So thought coupled with emotion. Thought coupled with emotion. Now, that thought, is that a picture? Is that the picture of the jaguar? Or help me understand when you thought coupled with emotion. What does that mean? What is the thought?
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, and I want to clarify, when I said the jaguar, I was just using that as one instance that would help a whole selection of things that would represent a lifestyle.
Yep.
Because I don't believe that a car or $1 million a month is going to make anybody happy.
No.
So one of the things that I have my clients do is really get in touch with what your ideal outcome is. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with real estate. Even if you're going to be a broker or own a franchise, the real estate part of it is just the vehicle. Ultimately, every single one of us is looking for a feeling. Now, that feeling may be freedom. That feeling may be, to spend time with our spouses or our children. It may be to give back to our community, whatever it is, but there's a feeling, and it always is going to be about feeling good, right? So there's some feeling good that you want to have, and you have to find in your mind what represents a picture of what it would look like if you had accomplished that, and you have that feeling. And so whether it's a car or a new lover or whatever, you get that feeling. And then now you have a picture, and then you get the emotion that goes with it. Because if you're closing your eyes, Toby, and you're seeing, the feeling of having that $1 million a month, which now means, I don't know, you're going to go to Europe 3 times a year or whatever, see you and your wife in Europe saying, oh my gosh, it's so awesome that we're making so much money that we can do this all the time. And you get that feeling. And as you start to feel and elevate your emotions because it's so real, then your brain begins to secrete what's called dopamine, and your serotonin increases, and oxytocin, and all these wonderful chemicals. You never need drugs again if you really can learn how to do this exercise. And you start to, your body starts to be convinced that it's already had that experience. And so your subconscious mind says, oh yeah, we make $1 million a year or a month so that we can go to Europe as often as we want. And so your subconscious mind will start leading you to those kind of opportunities, as well as the whole quantum physics aspect. You start to draw that into your life.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, that's great. So and would you? It's one thing to think about if you want to go to Europe a couple times a month. It's one to think about being on the Eiffel Tower, right, and feeling the breeze and shopping on the sidewalk and buying local art. Or you could think about sailing on a private yacht in the blue waters of Greece. And maybe you don't make it to the yacht, but maybe you make it to the Eiffel Tower.
Right.
Okay. Maybe I didn't come off as well as I had. Okay. So we're going to envision that. Is that? I'm still struggling a little bit, Tamara, with women and their self-worth and men operating out of fear. Even though I visualize that, right? I'm operating out of fear of failure. If I fail in this business endeavor, whatever it is, and look, by the way, this show is not, this show is about entrepreneurship through the lens of a real estate agent. We have everybody of all walks and all businesses listen to the show. The fear of failing and my wife's going to think I'm a failure. My friends are going to think I'm a failure. My parents are going to think I'm a failure. So I'm not going to level up. I'm not going to really try to go for broke in building my business because I'd rather succeed in making $100,000 a year than go out and publicly proclaim $1 million a year and then, quote unquote, fail to everybody I know. Is this process that you're saying, is it going to get me over that hump?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There have been, I just said that I was at a Joe Dispenza. I spent a couple of days with him, and there have been documented cases. This is ridiculous. People are getting up out of wheelchairs that they've been destined to be in forever. People are using their minds through a new branch of genetics called epigenetics to change the signaling of their genes in their body. So if you can do that, you can certainly overcome fears. And make no mistake about it, I use that as an example, Toby, because most chronic conditions, most illnesses, most diseases definitely have a beginning in our mental and our mindset and our mental outlook on things. So in other words, someone who has this fear, or this depression or whatever it is over years and doesn't change it, then eventually it begins to break down the body. And so then we get sick, or we get a chronic condition or a disease or whatever the case might be, cancer. So just using these techniques it's proving that people are changing their bodies because they're getting rid of all of those old beliefs, purging them and developing these new beliefs, and they're doing it all in their minds.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, that's amazing, getting up out of wheelchairs. All right, so we spent maybe hopefully everybody don't just stick tight. We're going to move on to the next piece of Tamara's book. We spent a lot of time talking about mindset. Her next piece is marketing, and then we're going to get into media a little bit, which is my favorite topic. Talk to us about marketing. You have an interesting piece in your book that the subtitle is "You Attract What You Are," and maybe that is more still mindset. But talk to us a little bit about marketing in your mind, Tamara.
Okay, so yeah, I'll try not to spend too much time on the mindset part, but yeah, you attract what you are, and it's really interesting because if I'm talking to a client and she says to me, "Oh my gosh, my buyer is just being so picky," then I stop and I say, "Okay, where are you being picky in your life right now?" Because it's just how the universe works, Toby. The universe is always showing us what we're putting out there. It's just giving it back to us. We project and reflect. And so anytime we have, and I teach conflict resolution and communications through Sac State as well. And I'll tell you that I tell people this in conflict resolution classes all the time. Anytime you have a problem with someone else, it's with yourself. And, we experience ourselves through other people. So that component of the book just kind of gets people to wrap their head around the possibility that a problem they have with another person may be something that is within themselves that they need to deal with. Other than that, we also find that we do tend to attract the kinds of clients that we have a lot in common with, or we have a lot of traits that we share with. So getting really clear on what our ideal client is a really, no matter what business you're in, is a really good place to start. Who do you want to work with? Because remember, just like this other stuff we're talking about, if you write it down and you envision who was a great client I had before, and you really kind of get into the energy of that, then you'll be more likely to attract those kinds of clients.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I think just, again, I think all this is tied together. Just like envisioning the kind of life you want, I think if people sitting down and describing, like building out their quote unquote avatar, right? Who their ideal client is, right? Are they, with sex, right? Men, female, how old they are, family structure, right? Family, single, whatever, profession. I think if you can get clear on that, I think that is so important because number one, you're going to, as you said, Tamara, you're going to attract it. But number two, when it comes to marketing, right? If I know who my ideal client is, I can start to craft my marketing messaging to speak to that person. So in terms of marketing, what do you see working in 2016? And, is the first step in smart marketing, identifying that avatar and then creating your message or brand to speak to that avatar ideal client?
Absolutely. And so that we understand the foundation is we always start with ourselves. Then we're reaching out now with marketing. I'm a big fan of referral and repeat business. I mean, that's what I try to really focus and hone in on. And so that's relationships. And there's something in the book that I coined the term networking instead of networking, because I think that we're all really tired of going to Chamber of Commerce events and having business cards pushed at us. So instead, I teach agents to find something that they love to do and are going to do anyway, or would like to do anyway, whether it's wine tasting or a book club or bowling. Find something that you like to do anyway, and then you do it. You join a group. You go to meetup.com, or you join your church, or you do something that you would love to do anyway. And now all of a sudden, you're in a better emotional place because you want to be there, and now you're meeting people, and it's not forced. These people are not there because they want to network. They're there because they want to bowl or go wine tasting or whatever. And you don't even have to tell anyone you're in real estate because it will come up organically and naturally in the conversation. And by this point, as you know, they're going to like, know, and trust you. And it's kind of a no-brainer. And we build our sphere that way So instead of thinking of our sphere, our database as people who might want to buy and sell houses, we're thinking of them as good friends who would love to refer us. And, exponentially that grows and grows and grows.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm glad you touched on that last piece of not mentioning it, because I think that's something that people struggle with, right? A lot of people struggle with the idea of sales, right? They don't like it, they don't feel good about it, and I think that's awesome. And by the way, when you said networking, I went to GoDaddy and it's taken. Hopefully you bought it.
No, I didn't.
Somebody else bought metworking.com. I was gonna grab it. It's a great term.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, I just came up with it because I don't like networking, and so I just put it in the book, and I thought, yeah, this is what I want to teach is networking. Let's meet and let's work together.
So okay, so I'm gonna go do the things I love, right? I love to ride bikes, I love to surf, I love to whatever. I'm gonna, and again, real estate is a contact sport. You got to go out, you have to meet people. So I'm gonna meet the kind of people I want in the environments that I like. They're gonna know, like, and trust me, and then again, real estate's always so topical. Once I kind of have built this sphere, this database up around people that know, like, trust, how do I in your mind, Tamara, deepen those relationships? It's one thing to meet them, and then I go bowling, and then I'm sure you've experienced this. You and me, we go wine tasting, and you love me, I love you, and all of a sudden I meet you at a coffee shop, different environment, and well, we don't have a whole lot to talk about. How does one go about building and deepening those relationships once they have them?
Well, I will tell you what I have done really effectively is social media. So I meet, and social media, as we talked about earlier, could be a different section of conversation. But I take those people that I meet networking and out and about, and I find them on social media, whatever their cup of tea is, if they're, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And obviously, to me, Facebook and Twitter is the easiest, but I maintain and grow the relationship there. I may send them an article that I think will be specifically interesting to them. I never, ever send or, links to anything about real estate. It's always about them. And, that's the old thing. Dale Carnegie said, you can be the most interesting person in the world if you're interested in other people. And so that's I guess you could say that's my secret sauce to marketing, is be more interested in other people than you try to make yourself interesting.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. In your book, you talk about social media a little bit. You have how many? So a little piece here of your presence, and here you talk a little about dress code, but you are the psychologist. This is what you do. We talk a little bit about presence in the sense of, we all know that or you and I know that it's not what we say that conveys a message. It's more in, how we sit. All these nonverbal cues account for more of the messaging than what we say. What's your thoughts on just presenting or showing up?
Absolutely. In fact, I was just giving a lecture on body language. Like 55% is nonverbal, and another large percent is about our voice and all the other things, and only 7% of the actual words we use. So you could look good and be comfortable up in front of an audience and not say anything worthwhile, and they could still love you. So that's a really interesting way to look at things. So I would say that it's important to be likable, and the way that you're likable, again, is being very interested in other people. I mean, obviously, with body language, we want to have powerful, straight postures, and this really relates back to our friend Tony Robbins, because he was teaching the importance of our state, our physiology, and how it affects our psychology, and it really, really does. But it also affects the way others see us. So having a straight posture and holding your stomach in, and really, really presenting yourself in a way that says, I like you and I like me too. And I think that's one thing that really throws people off, not to get off track, Toby, but it's really interesting how many people don't take health seriously, but yet all top producers, all people who are very, very successful, eventually, if not immediately, realize that health is our most precious commodity. It's our most precious possession. And I see these, and that's the other reason I want to bring this practice so desperately into the real estate industry, because we are in a stressful career. And taking care of our health is so important. And so if you are not healthy, I believe that you give out an unhealthy vibration. You know, people just can tell on some unconscious level if you're not a healthy person. And if you love yourself, then you better take care of your body. And so I think all of those things kind of holistically go together and how we present ourselves.
Absolutely. 100% agree. And, you know, it doesn't matter if you net $1 million a month if you can't, you know what I mean? You have to be healthy in order to enjoy it. You know, in terms of nonverbal cues, I'll tell you. So, I majored, right? I majored in sociology, and you know, in that, I learned some. Again, I'm in kindergarten compared to you, Tamara. But you know, there's just weird stuff that I learned that I still use today. And you know, there was a study done a long time ago, and when there was phone booths. And the deal is they did a test on a phone booth. They left a dime on top or in the phone booth, right? And they let somebody else go in there, and they went up and the person, right? They took the dime, found the dime, and they went up and tested it in two ways. So the person would go up and go, "Hey, I just left a dime in here. Did you find it?" Okay. And then the second time they did it, right, to somebody else, they went up and touched the person imperceptibly, just the tiniest touch, and said, "I just left a diamond here. Did you find it?" And what they found was when they touched the person, it's like 70%, like crazy double digits higher, would say, "Oh yeah, I did. Here it is," versus when they asked that and didn't touch the person. And I can tell you, like, for better or for worse, I touch people all the time. And I don't know. This is way off topic, but I'm just curious. Do you have any thoughts on those sorts of things? I don't know what to call them.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're just experiments and studies in sociology and social sciences. Yeah, I believe that I don't know that particular study, but my first gut instinct is that because with the touch, now there's a connection. So, and I do that too. It sounds like you and I are two peas in a pod. I'm very touchy too. You know, at the university level, we're not supposed to touch our students, but I'm always patting people on the back and, you know, whatever. But when we touch another person, now our energies are entangled. And so we've made that connection, and it's a bond, albeit a small, instantaneous one, but it still creates a sort of a bond that just looking at someone doesn't.
Yeah. I found that touching is and a lot of, maybe just the back of my hand, maybe just an elbow, like, but that it matters. And speaking of touching and how you touch people, you just said that you pat people on the back. And it's this is a funny power dynamic that I found is, when, and I use it all the time. And I think I do it to frustrate people. But, when, in terms of patting people on the back, typically there's the person who pats on the back is the authority figure, right? The boss will pat you on the back and say, "Good job," right? Attaboy. So when you can pat somebody on the back and say "attaboy" or whatever, you can shift the power dynamics in a situation relatively quickly. And again, I do it all the time. Somebody might be on, somebody like you, best-selling author, right? Whatever. You get up on stage and you come down and I'll pat you on the back and go, "Hey, Tamara, you did a great job." Well, I've just switched the power dynamics. You really should hold the power. Again, off topic, but just curious as to
right. And it's interesting to see that. I don't know if you or your listeners have ever gone on TED Talk and watched Amanda Cuddy. That's Cuddy. Amanda Cuddy did an interesting, a very interesting, and I always, I think I actually have it in one of my pages, but she did this interesting social experiment where she has proven that when a person holds a power pose, imagine holding your arms up in the air like you just want to race, or Wonder Woman at your hips. She has shown through her studies and her experiences that when a person holds a power pose for 2 minutes, Toby, that their cortisol goes down and their testosterone level rises. And so I'm really big on that information, because that's something when it comes to, if you choose to cold call, for example, or you have a meeting and you're nervous about it, or a listing appointment or whatever it is, do that. Hold that power pose, because it really will change your physiology, really will change your psychology. And so I really believe that there are people that will not let you. Like if I came off the stage and you patted me on the back and said, "Good job, Tamara," I would pat you right back and I'd say, "Thanks, you were a good audience member too."
Right. Yeah.
So it's really about feeling powerful, honestly. And even Amanda Cuddy said in that TED Talk, you fake it till you make it, or you fake it till you become it. And that's really what this is all about. It's about, if I had to point this or dumb it down, to something really simple for anyone, agents, anyone in sales, it would really be become the version of yourself who has whatever you want in life.
I love it. And by the way, I have seen that. And Amanda will say, she'll say, "Hey, before an interview, go into the bathroom and hold this pose, and you're going to do better." All right, well, we have to start wrapping up here, Tamara. There's a lot in your book. Everybody should go check it out. Mind Over Market. And once Tamara gets it on Audible, you guys know, you can get a free copy using our link. Just go to audibletrial.com/superagentslive. And Tamara, you still get paid, so don't worry about it. That's just Audible does that for people using that link.
Well, I wasn't worried about it, but if I can interrupt you really quick for your listeners, if they want to go to mindovermarketfreebook.com, that's a site that I have set up, and they can just pay shipping and handling. I think it's $6.95, and they can get the $20 book instead of going to Amazon. They can get it for $6.95.
That's awesome. All right. Yeah, we'll definitely have it on the show notes. So Tamara, again, you have a lot in your book. It's very, very meaty. I mean, I definitely think it's more of a textbook than this is a serious book. What's something that I didn't ask you or that we didn't talk about that you think, we should have talked about?
Probably social media.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so basically, I believe that social media is something that is so important that so many agents are missing out on. I see so many agents, Toby, at the end of the day, they'll get online and they'll have a glass of wine or two, and they'll start saying, "Oh gosh, they'll wine or whatever," and they don't realize that there are thousands of prospective clients and referral sources out there. And so when you are on social media, you need to use social media as the marketing and branding tool that it is and that it should be, and it's a relationship deepener. And I see a lot of agents using it incorrectly, or they're just advertising on it, or they're talking about politics,
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I mean, I think, it's social, right? Be social. But, it's a cocktail party online. Like, you're not going to go and talk, you're not going to go, if you're at a cocktail party and you start talking about your listings boring, like, I'm going to move on. And if we meet at a cocktail party, you start telling me about how you're stressed out, 100% agree. And I think the good rule of thumb, Tamara, I'm sure you'd agree with this, is that when it comes to your social, it should be 80% your social, and if you're going to insert business at all, it should be capped out at 20% of the content.
Absolutely. And one more thing is that I really feel that more agents, anyone in sales, should do more video. I think I have like 300 videos on YouTube, and I really, when I was selling more than I was coaching, I was getting contacts all the time. People watch you on social media, even if they don't interact with you, as I'm sure you know. So having that personal touch, I force my agents to do videos. They hate it, but once they get used to it, they realize that in their market share, they're like the only one doing it, So it's just so important to be yourself and share yourself with your community.
I agree. And I think if you're going to take the time to create content and put it on video, I mean, here's my opinion, Tamara, and I love video. However, just like this podcast, it's audio. I love audio better. And here's why I love audio better. And if somebody can do both, you can record a video, strip the audio out. But if I'm going to create this great content, and if I'm going to put it on YouTube, right? And then I'm going to send it out to my list, which, you should put it out on YouTube for discovery. But then also, if it's good content, send it to your database and increase that relationship, that connection with them. Why I love audio better than video, Tamara, is that if you create an audio piece of content on showing up, I mean, there's so much in your book that you could do. I would put it, if I'm going to drive to the store, I can put my phone to sleep and still listen to your stuff. Whereas with video, I have to keep that video screen playing, and if I put my phone to sleep, it goes away, right? Or I keep the video up while I'm driving just to listen to you, and then my battery's getting drained. So I do love.
Okay. I see where we're off. We're not on the same page here. I absolutely agree with the audio and the podcast. Video are like 2-minute little snippets.
Okay.
2-minute little snippets like, hi, how are you today? I wanted to tell you about blah, 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 blah. Little snippets. Yeah, I absolutely agree. But you don't have a lot of agents that are really doing podcasting. But I would agree, if you're going to do a kind of a webcast or something like that, then yeah, do it with, if you're going to do what buyers need to know this year or something like that, then yeah, absolutely do it with an audio because it is more shareable. I agree with that.
And one tool I'll share with you that you probably don't know because it's brand new is Anchor.fm. And Anchor.fm is all audio. It's a free app. But I can create a 2-minute podcast again for free if I was going to do that. But it's got a discovery component to it. I literally just signed up. They just launched a few weeks ago. I signed up, did literally a 30-second. Hey, this is Toby Salgado, host of Super Agents, blah blah blah. And like within minutes, I had like 40 followers. So I'm building a new show. But what I can do, Tamara, is I can take that same content and then throw it out to my list. And the cool thing about this app is, if let's say that you followed me, or I sent my Anchor.fm, my link to you for you to listen to this 2-minute content, you can via audio respond back to what I just said, so that it's two-way interaction. It's pretty cool. And the last thing that I know we're talking about, this turned from an interview to just a conversation, which that's fine. That's what this show really is. But the one thing I would say in terms of social, the whole goal of social is to meet those people online, but then get that relationship offline, right? You want to deepen it. You want to take it from online to offline, and create a real relationship with these folks. Look, I always ask for a book recommendation. Now we've talked about your book, Mind Over Market. Everybody should get it. But what does somebody like you read? And here's the setup. I'm an aspiring agent. I have $25. What book, Tamara, should I go buy right now?
I would say Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, boom. Yeah, 100%. That should be in everybody's bookcase. And going back, we talked about it earlier, but if you want a free copy of that, use our link, audibletrial.com/superagentslive. Okay. Tamara, here's my last question to you. I mean, you have this wonderful career. You're producing all this fantastic, brand new, fresh content. What's next for you? What's your end game, Tamara?
My end game is that I want to know that I've got 1 million real estate agents, lenders, brokers, managers meditating every day.
Got it. Speaking of that, do you think you have a personal habit, or do you have a personal habit that you think has contributed to your success?
I think that I was one of those people, and I know we're running out of time, so I can't go long here, but I was someone who struggled with stress and anxiety to such a degree that it really destroyed my health. Wow. This is like 15 years ago. And that's when I really started diving into healing myself and the whole idea of meditation. And then I just kind of developed it over the years to make it what it is. So what it really does at the first glance, what it really does is it helps people increase their sales. But ultimately, my sneaky little trick is to help people be healthier and happier.
I love it. For me, Tamara, listen, if there's anything I can do to help you forward your cause, let me know. I'm here to help. I'm here to give. I always encourage my audience, if they've gotten anything out of this, to reach out and say thank you to you, Tamara. Where can people find you?
People can find me. I'm on Facebook under, obviously under Tamara Dorris. My website is tamaradoris.com. That's 2 R's in Dorris. And I think that's good.
Awesome. And look, I'll be the first one to kick off the thank you train. Thanks, Tamara. I know you're busy, got a lot going on. I appreciate you carving the time out to share with me and my audience.
Hey, I'm honored to have been here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tamara. All right, talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah. This show is produced by me, Toby Salgado, with help from our research team and production done by Viralcast. If you're building a team and want to make sure you're doing it the most efficient way, reach out to Corcoran Coaching. They coach 83 of the nation's top producing teams. And for our listeners, they'll give you a free business evaluation. Send an email to Bubba at CorcoranCoaching.com and let them know I told you guys to call.